In the 80s, I found myself very interested in cooking, which wasn't the path of least resistance, so to speak. My father was an accomplished scientist, my brother was in law school, and I wanted to go to culinary school. And if you have any idea what it's like to tell your parents that, back in the day, it was a daunting task. So, coming from Plattsburgh, here we are in this little dot at the very top of New York. So when you say you're from New York, most people think you're from New York City. So here we are, close to the Canadian border, and it was very difficult to see the path forward in terms of learning about food, about different cultures, about self-exploration, developing a repertoire of cuisine and whatnot. So it wasn't really until I fully embraced the concept of Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and the life lessons within that book. And I think there are many. And for me, the concept of place is critically important for understanding how you move forward. I think place, when you think of context, is very much a self-paradigm. And so here's the picture of the Eiffel Tower. I've been to this many times. I've been to the top numerous times. I've lived in France. It's a wonderful feeling to go, and it's a feeling to explore. But in the left context here, this is what people see as Paris. But yet you walk down Seuss Avenue, and this is what you see on the top right. When you drill down further in terms of place, you end up walking the streets of Paris. You no longer see the Eiffel Tower. You no longer see what you thought Paris was. You're experiencing Paris from a very different point of view. Next thing you know, you go to a food market. After that, you go sit in a brasserie. You people watch, which is a very great pastime in Paris. But my whole point here is the shift in context and the shift in place. So it's excitement to go to Paris. It's excitement to see the Eiffel Tower. But once you are there, it's almost owed to yourself to explore on a richer, deeper level. So that brings me to the concept of place. And I really want to kind of almost Doctor Who this a little bit and think of multi-dimensional pieces. Now, I'm not a sci-fi person in any way, shape, or form, but I noticed that my son was watching Doctor Who. And so one thing about the introduction was Garrett had said I was a father. So I have a boy who is 18 years old. And one of the things we enjoy doing on breaks is watching Doctor Who. Now, great thing, there's like 53 years of Doctor Who, so you can never run out. And I still don't understand all of it. I understand the latest generation of Doctor Who. But I really want to take the concept of place and shift that, because throughout all life, you experience highs and lows and complications. If we go back to Dr. Seuss, if you read a summary of Doctor Who's The Places You'll Go, it's the protagonist. So we're all the protagonists. And we all end up in this place called the waiting game. But you have to get to the waiting game. And I think the thing that you owe yourself as a student who's going to leave that little dot of Plattsburgh, New York, and go travel is to really savor every step along your journey in life. And I think in my youth, I did not do that. I chased dollars. I chased notoriety. I chased external value on something that was internal to me, to the point where I no longer liked what I did for a living. And I found that to be disheartening. So I got out of higher education, and I said, when I do that, I'm going to merge photography and technology, cooking, and then some form of commerce. And it's there that I found myself again in a much richer, deeper way. So I take place now, and it's multidimensional. So yes, it's the physical space. I'm probably supposed to stand on the center of this rug right here. So this is my physical space. There's also a place in time. So there's a place where you are supposed to be. There's a place where you want to be. And all these things, just take the same word of place and change it. My point is that no matter where you go in a journey, every step you should savor. So I don't hide from the fact that there's challenges in my life. My wife has metastatic breast cancer. So at times I am in a place of a hospital waiting room, of an MRI room, and I actually, not that I savor those, but I don't walk away from that piece. I take full advantage. I talk to somebody who's sick. I talk to another caregiver. I savor that moment, and I like to listen, and that's critically important for me as a human being, because then I come back and I say, okay, life could be greater, life could be worse, who knows, but it allows me to appreciate everything that's surrounding me. So when we think about space as a concept, it's the physical here, it's the geographic, our region, it's the people, which I think is the most important piece that we often overlook. It's the people that we engage. It's the chronological time frame of where we are in life, per se. It's also experiential. So in my latest venture, I run a cooking school. We have cooking classes, many of you I see there. But I like to say we don't just do food, we do food experiences. And I mean that from the bottom of my soul, because I think food and people should be experienced together in the sense that you have conversation, you have a dialogue, you listen, you share, you grow. And for me, that's critically important, because it's what I'm honored to do in this community. And I spent decades working away from here. So always having roots here, it's nice to focus on that. And then it's also sensory, which is where the food comes in. It's very handy. And I like to think of Dr. Seuss a lot, because it reminds me of the movie Philadelphia, where I think it was Denzel Washington, explained this to me like I'm 5 years old. And I think when we simplify the message, it's pure, it's clean, it's unadulterated. So the very first lesson is, today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. As a child, as a student, as a kid that grew up in a professional household, to want to become a cook, and I say that, a cook, not a chef, I wanted to cook for a living. And that was who I was, and that was very difficult to explain. But I knew that was the path I wanted to go down. So I encourage anybody who has a slight different path to embrace that, celebrate that, because that's who you are. Bottom, today I shall behave as if this is the day I will be remembered. As a chef, I fully know I'm only as good as my last meal. And that's the hallmark that every chef lives by. You are only as good as the last meal. You're only as good as the last class. And I like to say, in a personal mission statement I have, I do this better than anybody who has done it before. And for me, that's critically important, because that's a sense of pride. And it allows me to secure my place within myself that, I don't want to word this one, allows me to be me. And nobody understands that better than myself. And I think when you go through these 5 things, as it's celebration of self. And I encourage all students and all young people to go out and not be stuck in a rigid structure of go to college, do this, get married, have kids. Your path is unique to you. And I used to always say this to the students that we would do orientation with. Success is individual. How you get from point A to point B is uniquely you. It should be that. And you owe it to yourself to follow those paths. Some of you will go off to college. It may not work for you. Some of you will find a trade. That may not work for you. Some of you at 30 will find that, you know what? I signed up for this path. I don't like this path anymore. Change it. You know? Be you. Be youer than you. So, and that's what I really want to understand, convey, is that place is here. It's who you are. And it's not somebody's external evaluation of you. It's not what they say, oh, you should be a doctor, you should be this. You should be you, and that should be fine. So when we savor place, this is my happy place. This is why I live where I live, is to take that walk with my dog and be me, because it roots me, it grounds me, and it allows me to be successful, hopefully successful, doing what I do. And I think we all need to find what this picture is to you. So, thank you.